Hi there, welcome to Pitchside again. Thank you so much for always joining us on Pitchside. Thank you for always sharing the content, liking it, commenting, and putting it out there. Like we keep saying, it's very, very important for us to always bring you the A-listers of Ugandan football. Yet again, we are back with another edition where we're going to, of course, dissect a lot of Ugandan football, but with people who have been around in the Uganda football circles for a very, very long time. Now, in 2008, he led KCCFC to their first title in 11 years. He scored 15 goals, went on to actually be named the Uganda Premier League Player of the Season, and that's when his career skyrocketed. Today on Pitchside, I have the pleasure of interviewing Brian Umony. Brian, it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. How are you?
Hi guys. Of course, like Peter said, my name is Brian Umony. Played for the Uganda national team. Played extensively in the Uganda Premier League with KCC predominantly. Of course, I came back and played with other clubs like Express, Proline. But I've played outside Uganda as well for Super Sport, for Portland Timbers. I played in Asia. And I'm very excited to be on Pitchside.
Okay. So, Brian, where do I start from? I wanted to mention the clubs you've played for, but clearly you've helped me get that out of the way. I need to start from the fact that whenever I meet you, Hassan Waswa, Tony Maweje, the first question I have for you guys is, how is retirement? Because we all know that, most of you, that generation has, stepped away from active football, that's for sure. And we just want to know, people out there probably, how has retirement treated you so far, and how have you gone about with making sure that you continue your life minus, active football?
Well, like you've said, I've retired from active football, but I've not retired from football. Predominantly because I am still in football. Right now, I'm enjoying it, and I'm enjoying administration. I work with FUFA as a professional manager in the development department. But so far, so good. It's an experience that I relish. It's an experience that I've been able to enjoy so far.
So many people in your capacity who have gone on to play professional football and national team football, when they reach the point where they feel like it's time to retire, it's a bit hard for them to adjust. Some even come out of retirement and come back and play football. Maybe for your case, how have you been able to ensure that you have that smooth transition and you don't miss the days of, waking up to go and train and prepare for a match day and stuff like that?
Look, I manage my life. I know when I need to train. I know whatever I need to do. So it's not that I'm having a hard time, but of course it is about what priorities you're putting in your life right now. What is priority for me? Of course, fitness is priority. Playing, I do play. But right now, I am busy with administration work, and that's what I do.
You had in my eyes, you had a very good career, and like any other player, you definitely had those moments where you are in the treatment room due to injuries.
Yes.
Today, maybe so many fans of yours expected a longer career. People tend to categorize your career, Brian Umony, as one that had quite a number of injuries here and there. How would you sum that up as you in your position? Would you say that's the same situation or it's different?
I think I had a very, very successful career. My perspective is, coming up, I never expected to go as far as I went. Believe me, I never expected to play professional football, even in Uganda. And I think whatever I achieved, well, we can speak about it. As champion in Uganda, went to South Africa, became champion, albeit the number of games I've played. Went to Ethiopia, champion again. Extensively, I've won accolades with other clubs as well that I have gone to. But I think extensively, as much as I've played, I've been very, very successful. Even with the Uganda Cranes, I have been champion of East Africa. I have been a part of a group that qualified for a major tournament. Of course, as a footballer, look, a lot of injuries come about because of your development path. A lot of injuries have come about because of my preparation. But of course, that happens in football. And maybe I would have had a longer career, but whatever I have achieved in football right now, I am grateful for, and I'm very satisfied with what I've achieved.
Okay. It's good you talk about the fact that people need to know that from where you are seated, it is a successful career. And that's good to know, because at the end of the day, for a young kid out there, they should not think that an injury can stop you from bouncing back.
Absolutely not, Peter. Look, my biggest dream was to play for Uganda Cranes, and I achieved that. One of my dreams was to play professional football, and I achieved that. Part of it was also to play and become champion with a big team in Uganda. I played for KCC, I played for Uganda Cranes, and I played professional football.
All right, let's go to that part where you mentioned that you've played professional football. You're one of the few ex-Cranes players that has played on 3 continents. If you didn't know, you played in Asia, I think in India, you played in the US, you also played in Africa. What are some of those things that you picked out from those continents that helped your career blossom or become better as Brian Umony? What are those takeaways you got from those continents?
Look, the level of professionalism, the training ethic, and the methods improved me a lot. I must say that, of course, leaving Uganda and going to Supersport, yes, I went out there as a novice, and of course it was a learning trip. It was a very good thing for me. But most of my football, I perfected when I went to the US, because the foundations and the methods used there made me a totally different player. And it was evident that when I came back to play on the national team, my performances became a little bit better as compared to when I was coming up from KCC, coming up from Supersport. So I think it was a good thing because of the methods that I was exposed to and the levels of professionalism that I was exposed to in these clubs.
Of course, you talk about the level of professionalism, and now you're an administrator in Ugandan football. How would you break that down? How would you categorize what you saw and went through today in Ugandan football? In what context would you bring it in? What is the level of professionalism we're talking about here?
Look, it all goes back to the clubs, the governance of the clubs, and how these clubs make their money, the business part. But of course, for us as footballers, we're looking at the sporting side. The coaches you're exposed to, the methods of training, the very many departments that I do not see in our clubs today. Or they are there, but they are not doing the right work. Look at the scouting side in these clubs. Look at the medical side in this, which is very vital. You look at the statistical science and technology, how you capture data about players. It was a new thing for me. Interpret it. Exactly. It was a new thing for me because I went out there and they had started, by the time I went there, they had started collecting data of players at Supersport, in Portland Timbers, it became profound. And it was a new thing for me, but that is where the world was going in terms of science and technology. Exactly. And then there's other aspects that deal with players, player development, the youth structures that I saw at these different clubs. Those are some of the exposures, the things that I saw that were different right now that I think should come into our league,
That's a very good discussion. I know it is a bit broad, but one would say maybe clubs also, to be able to, produce that, they need to be financially stable so that they can actually have those setups. My question is, how viable can it be done without the financial bit being looked into a lot, as with your experience that you had?
Look here, you can look at it both ways.
Yes.
You can say, for us to be a professional club, we first have to look for money. Why don't you say that for us to be a professional club, let us follow a model? For example, like a development model. Let us be a club that builds, that manufactures players for different purposes, to sell,
yes,
for those players to graduate into our senior team and play. Because when you sell players, you will get income, especially when you sell players to a foreign market. You get, foreign currencies flowing into your system, So I have seen very many club models in my studies extensively that have changed their fortunes because they have chosen a development path, a development model. You develop players, sell outside there, expose these players as well, to playing in your systems. Look, a certain club that I know did it successfully under a very profound coach. That was KCC. That was like 5 years ago.
Yes,
the times
Mike
of Alan
Mokele.
Okello. Those players
Safakiza,
blossomed.
Poloto.
I see Vipers doing as well, because these clubs sold these players. They exposed these players. And some of these players as well played in their structures. And these clubs gave a very good account of themselves in the league and on the continent as well. So why can't we adopt that model as clubs?
So I'm trying to understand you, Brian. You're trying to say that clubs in Uganda today need to adopt a model
Exactly.
where they can single out or recruit young talented players.
Absolutely.
And then they churn them to the A team, and then they sell them over.
Yes, it is a model that has worked. I went to Germany at Leipzig, and that is the model they follow. They develop players and then sell them out to the whole world. But as well, in their German system as well, they're selling to the league, and they're also selling in their level of league, which is the Bundesliga, and then the leagues below them as well. So these players have market all over. So you don't worry about players not making it to the Bundesliga, but you know these players will have market in the development leagues as well, the lower leagues. Plus they'll have a big market. So these players have generated income for this team, as much as they have a profound sponsor. Well, you can look at it the business side as well. Give yourself an image that is very irresistible for a sponsor to work with you. You know, market yourself, put yourself in a space where you have star players.
The point of resources and our structure right now in Ugandan football, how can a club marry your
When I
idea
came to
and
KCC,
concept?
I came to KCC when they were struggling
Yes.
with resources. What I'm saying is, with your meager resources, put those structures in place. Structures that scout players, structures that develop players, so that you can produce fantastic players who are irresistible for the league. These players are the players who are going to bring back the fans in the stands. These are the players you will market to sponsors to give you money. And when this money comes as a club and you have a good business model, good governance model, you will build your club from that money. But build the players first, make them irresistible for people, make them irresistible for fans, make them gods to fans, make them superstars in the country by training them right, by developing them from the scratch right, so that by the time he's 17, oh my God.
Why is it so hard for Ugandan clubs to take that route, even when you feel like they can execute it with meager resources? That's my question.
I think people are not trying to do it. People are not putting those structures in place. Give me a club in Uganda that has a full-time club scout. Having a full-time club scout is not as expensive. Get a staff who can do it, who is trained and prepared to do it, and put him in place to do the scouting for you countrywide, even if there are 2 or 3, so that you get the right players who can fit into your way of thinking, into your way of playing. It goes back to our structures, really, Peter. I'm not here to crucify anybody. What I'm saying is, let us go back to the drawing board and do the right thing structurally. In governance, I know the Federation has made strides, in business as well. But as well, we are looking at the sporting side. Do you have these structures sporting-wise? Do you have a youth academy? Do you have a development system? What is your medical team like? What is your science and technology like? What is your scouting department like? So it goes back to our club chairman. It goes back to our leaders of the club to make sure that these things are right, these things are put in place. Because these are things that are going to propel our clubs to a professional level. Okay,
we're going to get back to the administration bit that you're handling right now and the Uganda Premier League. I want to take you back to your heyday when you are, playing as a professional footballer. At one time, you went and played football in Vietnam.
Yes.
I think I have now the opportunity to find out from you. Vietnam, because over the years we've had so many players go there. Some have not even come back. I think Mpande is still there. Baba Kizito is still there. What I know there is good pay.
Can I unearth the secret?
Yes, but please tell me.
Players are going to hate me. No.
Please,
When
what's happening in Vietnam and what has
when
pushed
you
players
become
to
a
go there?
professional footballer, you become
Yes.
a merchant. You become a trader of your services.
Okay.
And your services offer your talent. But is this talent well paid? Look, I left the US with a contract on table and decided to go and play in Vietnam. Can you give me a better reason? Like, I'm not going to do
good
that.
pay.
You know? Yes!
Okay.
There
Okay.
was way better pay.
Let me put it in this context, Brian Umony. First of all, what are the modes of payment in Vietnam? Is it similar to the usual football setups? Like, is it monthly, or do you have game bonuses? And what prices do they range in? And the salary as well. What price? Because you see, it's important to give context to
Absolutely.
to what we are talking about, so that someone out there understands.
People should know. First of all, before I answer you, I went from Uganda as a national team player. And of course, the perception about a country like Vietnam is that perception that you see in those movies. I was shocked. The level of development, let's say the country is developed, the cities are way developed, compared to some countries in Africa, compared to our country. But as well, the football infrastructure as well is in place. That means those people respect the game of football. And that means if it comes to paying a professional player, they will pay a professional player. And by the time I went there, there's a player, I think it was Denilson. He went there for a very short stint and he didn't like it there. But I think his deal was worth $1 million, I was told, and it was true. The money is there. If you impress, you will get signed in US dollars and you're paid monthly. And your money will come. By the time we were there, it was coming in cash. But you'd get it in US dollars, legitimate US dollars. Handsomely. I went there with a profile coming off US, being a national team player. I was paid over $6,000 monthly. At the end of the day, it is the money.
You point out the money. Wouldn't you say at some point someone would reach and say, okay, this is just enough. Now let me get back to another league where I can win trophies and play for a career.
But there's trophies to win as well. This country is also involved in the Asian Champions League as well. Football does not differ. Even if you found it in Vietnam, Cambodia, you come and find the same football in Uganda, you find it in East Africa, you find it in North Africa. As long as you're in a team and you're happy to play for that team, go and play football as long as your wishes and the expectations are being met by a club.
I need to ask you this as well. The Vietnamese Football League has attracted so many top players across the world. How competitive is it though? And which clubs do you point out and say this is the Madrid of Vietnam, this is the Barcelona of Vietnam?
I played for the Chelsea of Vietnam. It was called Vicamex. Vicamex Binh Duong.
Yes.
But as well, there's very many clubs that have a lot of money at that tune. There's Haiphong. These clubs are very capable and they are very professionally set up clubs in Vietnam.
The exposure bits for a Ugandan young player out there who is called to go to Vietnam. What are the chances that a European scout can pick him from there and cross him over?
The league is followed. Moses Solaya was signed from Hanoi. He was signed to go to Russia from Hanoi. And then the Chinese league as well monitors that league in Asia. There's exposure everywhere. That league is on TV. And you may think that players who go there are these players who have failed. No, that is not the case. You can be a top player in Uganda and go there and you don't get a contract.
How are contracts awarded? Because I think an agent maybe appreciates the talent that you have.
World over,
you have a
yes.
profile and you're called over and you sign. Maybe how does it happen also?
You're scouted.
You're
scouted.
Yes.
You have good performances. Like for me, because of my representation of the national team, what gets out there. You don't even know how you get to Vietnam. Your name gets to Vietnam, but you're there. Of course, they have representatives in Uganda as well who are Ugandan, who know you and think you can play in the league. You understand? You're capable of playing in the league. So you go out there. Most of the time, African players, we are subjected to trials. They give you a week, look at you, and see if you can fit into their system. Sometimes you go straight out there with a profile and you go and play. The likes of Moses Soloya, Chizisto Baba went there as young players and they were put into their development structure. You can imagine. That is like 10 years ago.
Yes.
And these clubs have youth systems that are vibrant and developing. They are developing players. Where do you think they should be now? Moses did exceptionally well.
Yeah, absolutely. Moses Solaya has represented Uganda so well
Absolutely.
in Vietnam.
Right.
As we conclude on this Vietnam story, there's a story Brian Umony told me, but I want him to tell it on camera about when he was supposed to sign for a club in Vietnam.
I landed from the US. Yes. There was that decision I should have made. I must have made, like, to sign or not to sign in the US.
Yes.
And of course, the terms in the US did not make me happy. And so my representative told me, come down here and look at this. I trained for that team. I trained with that team like for 3 days because I was in between. I had to fly back to Uganda very quickly. So, and I was impressed. Banged in goals, boom, 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 from every side of the pitch. But still, because of my size, they weren't big players, African
Yeah.
players for that country, especially strikers. Because of my size, they were not content. And they needed to put something to eliminate me. And that was fitness. So they gave me a Cooper test. By then, I did not know it was a Cooper test. They told me to run 8 times around a very big stadium in 12 minutes. And the sun was here. I said now I have left US
Notandika.
without a contract. I started. I nearly died. I did not make the mark, but my mark was very impressive. The tune that the guy just shook his head and took me straight to the office. And
And they gave you bags of money.
in the evening, I was on the flight back to Kampala.
That's how the man went to Vietnam and got bags of money to gende eyo noddukira mu basajja ne bakuteeka mu ambulance.
Look, the levels.
Ogenda ng'oli fit.
Levels za fitness erinze
Ddala nnyo.
ddala nnyo. Oyinza okugamba buno busajja bumpimpi. You would be surprised. They are well built, well prepared for the game, and very fit.
So let me bring you back home here. Playing for a club is one thing, but supporting it and feeling attached to it is another. You played for KCCFC, won the league, top scorer, was MVP. What does KCCFC mean to you as Brian Umony?
Remember my coming up, I found myself in Naguru, and the only club I used to see there was Naguru Avis, City Lads, but a club with a lot of fans, a lot of superstars, and that club was KCC. So it is the club I grew up seeing a lot of stars around there, although I feared going into that space, you know. So I remained playing around the club for Naguru Avis. I have played for this club as my one true love. Let me say, it is a club I have at heart. I respect so much. KCC is my club. It means a lot to me, and seeing it in this state right now
Doesn't please you.
doesn't please me.
What is that one thing that you feel you did out of love for KCCFC? And today when you sit back, you're like, yeah, I came through for this club.
My commitment to this club is 100%. Yeah. Of course, even moving out, like when I was going to Azam, you know, I had no contract with the club, no running contract. Of course, some of these clubs that I went to, there was a final one that had to make that. You know what? These are people who have seen me grow. This is a club, you know, that needs to be remunerated, even if I do not have a contract. So please, Mubawe you can too, and these clubs would gladly do. You know, exactly. So my commitment to this club has always shone the light for me.
Now, KCCFC, ever since Mike Mutebi left, have really struggled with winning silverware. Should I say they've not won silverware in 6 seasons? There's been a lot that has happened ever since Mike Mutebi left KCCFC. There's been different coaches that have come and gone. Today, when you look back, Brian Umony, for a club that you played for and the club that you love, what are those take-home points that you feel have not been done for the club to return to its former glory?
Well, I think I've not been inside, so I should not mention things that are so internal because I have no authority over it. But I think we should look at the things that made us tick during Mikey's reign. Like I've mentioned earlier. Right now you see our youth structures at KCC, and you think there's a lot to be desired. The youth coaches as well. I think that department needs to be ramped up a little bit. You need to get the right people in the right places to head that department because it is very vital. You wouldn't be surprised why we're not producing anymore the Alan Okellos, the Cheesers. Wouldn't that ring a bell? Why aren't we doing that anymore? You'd mentioned we have the EJRs in place right now, but is it sufficient now to propel our club to the levels that we're on? You know, and I think we should revisit how things are done as well. At the club. What I'm saying is, we need a dissection. We need an honest discussion as a club. Sit down. Every stakeholder at the club needs to come out with all honesty and mention things, speak without fear, so that things can change. It is not right to start pointing fingers about this coach, that coach, he has done this, this executive or that executive. But there's always a winning formula, there's always a winning structure. Interrogate, have we adopted that winning structure, that winning formula since that time that we used to win? Yeah, and the ball now comes to your court.
KCCFC has a board that runs it and then a secretariat. From your experience, do you think the board plays a major role in how the club operates? And maybe are there things you feel they can adopt just to make sure that the club can definitely give a smile or put a smile on the fans'
But
faces?
of course, the board has been doing its role. Maybe the role has not been sufficient, but the board does its role. The board has a chairman as well, you know. But as well, it appoints the person who runs the club on a daily basis. Yeah. Maybe you should think about appointing that person with another person who helps run football for the club as well. Because the CEO may run the administrative part, but the CEO may look like they are overwhelmed with work that they should not do. Like the football bit has to have a sporting director as well. Do you understand? So, yes, as much as the board ensures that players are paid, everything is running smoothly at the club. We have a coach, a high profile coach, we have everything in place, the stadium is well managed. Maybe you should consider adding other departments that make the club tick.
One of the challenges KCCFC has faced is the transfer policy. The transfer policy has not exactly produced what many people want to see on the pitch.
Look here, Peter. Go on.
How do you come in there and maybe paint a picture? How good should the transfer policy be
Look,
worked on?
I knocked on the idea of the CEO having a lot of work. Now, world over, you would look at how many clubs have their CEO admin manage transfers of a club, and then you ask yourself, is that the right way? Maybe yes. Maybe the CEO has people who help her with that. But as well, what I've seen world over is clubs having people like sporting directors manage that part of football. And those people should come in with a lot of experience in that strategy. People who know the culture of the club, people who know what they want the playing style of the club to be. You
Yes.
understand? Yes? People who know which coach fits into that playing style and what players he or she should sign for that style of football. That means that person should be extensively experienced in our league and outside to bring in that kind of player who plays kawowo and a coach who coaches kawowo, so that you maintain, at whatever cost you maintain, that culture, that playing style for the club until it is a success. The club should now look into that kind of executive who is experienced in football matters, as much as you have a CEO running business for you as a club.
And the
Now,
board.
KCC at our stature right now, I think it's a club that should have all the structures in place because we can have those professional structures set up for us so that now we know that this person is handling the youth, is handling science and technology, hiring people who head these departments at this club, so that now we have every unit in place ticking towards success.
Let's get back to Brian Umony, the administrator. First of all, there are courses that you've done. Catch us up to speed with those. What have you done? What have you osomye eki so far? Bwetukuwa kazaamu ako okatuusa mu group stages eza CAF Champions League oba you be there asking ki ekiddako
Nkasobola.
kazama kalimu feito tokasobola.
Kasobola. Wait, look. Besides Azam, I have had, of course, after playing, I've had, I won't say extensive, but now I'm having a ball, I'm having an experience, now learning football. In fact, I should advise that even these clubs can have some of their players, before they retire, have these courses in place for them to understand this game. The whole team. My perspective got broadened when now I entered footballing class. When I started now studying football on paper and practically, it increases your level of knowledge. So I think these clubs should also employ that tactic to have better players playing for them in their system. So I did a CAF C right after playing for Proline Football Club. And then I followed up eventually with a footballing course in Germany, Leipzig. It is called an ITK program, and it's funded by the Germany Federal State. It was in Leipzig. This footballing course entails a lot of things. Most of the people I talk to think I went for a coaching course. Yes, it involves coaching. It involves development. It involves didactics, which is how you teach players at different age levels. It involves medicine. I think it has an element of tracking as well. And then units like scouting also come in as well. But it is an extensive course that opened me up to join administration at FUFA. Then at FUFA, I did, immediately after I got in, I did FAMACO level 1, which is a football administration management course. Recently, I've done FAMACO level 2. And at that level now, I can become assistant CEO or CEO somewhere in a lower league. And then we are studying languages right now. I have different a certificate in tracking and monitoring of players. That is Catapult project that was introduced by FUFA to monitor our players in the league, which is, I think, a very good thing for us right now in order to determine and improve performances of our players in the league and for the national team as well. And as well, I have done a scouting course as well. I keep on doing courses intermittently, but they're very good courses for me as a footballer.
You're currently part of the FUFA setup. Maybe guide me on what exactly you're focused on in the federation, and what was the driving factor for you to decide and take it on?
Look, you aired out my experiences, and most importantly was that I played professional football. And for my role at FUFA is because I've experienced that side of football, which is a good thing. In the quest of developing football in the country right now, rolled out a strategic plan for football through a technical master plan, which has 4 pillars. One pillar is mass football, which targets that football should reach every homestead in the country, in Uganda. And the second pillar is elite football. Now that football is played in various homesteads, you have an opportunity to identify those players and then put them in a setup. And that pillar is elite football, which entails development of players, which we are lacking right now, probably, which we are doing, not fully. Development of players to an elite level, you know, physically, mentally, you know, emotionally. You develop a player to become a complete player, to be able to play in our youth national teams, in our national team, in our various clubs in the country, because the system, of course, exposes clubs as well to do so. And then the third pillar, which I represent, is pro football. Now that you have developed these players, you expect them to go somewhere. But where are they going? What environment are you assimilating them in terms of infrastructure? What are they coming to? In terms of coaching, is that coaching pushing them on, increasing, you know, enhancing their development? Professional, I'm enhancing, you know, I'm enhancing what has come out of the elite football. As well, that is a competitive stage as well. Now that you've given me those players, you know, the environment that they are in, does it involve tracking of their performances? How is the medical environment in case these players are injured? Are they in the right hands, first of all? When in the right hands, is the right protocol of injury management being followed at these various clubs? Mine is to liaise, to connect the federation and the clubs to make sure that these things, sporting, are in place. And then there's life after football, which I am right now. And I represent a footballer who has played in the league for the national team. And now, after playing,
What's next?
what next? I'm involved in football still, but in administration, to be particular in development.
How do you think this setup that you've explained can be executed or can be passed on and it's effective? How is that chain going to work, or how is it working? From where you're standing, is it achievable? Is it executable?
It is being done. It is being done. Like I said, FUFA realized that they have made strides in terms of governance. Now, you can say the applicability, it is being applied already. And now, us coming on board now, we are trying to make the sporting side work as well right now. The elite football scouting is now rolling out. We have like 311 scouts right now who have been trained by FUFA. Mass football now, a lot of FUFA staff have gone out and given out balls in conjunction with FIFA to various schools to make sure that football reaches the homesteads, not only schools, because these schools represent our communities, yeah. And giving these communities balls means that, you know, football will be played in each and every homestead in the country. And then as well, the pro bit is in the pipeline. It is coming. We are working, and as well, you can tell me if you came to the secretariat right now, how many ex-footballers now you see
Quite a number.
seated in FUFA offices. See, that's why I'm saying, you know, it is applicable and it is happening right now. We are touching every region. The TDS talent development scheme as well has come up. FIFA project in conjunction with FUFA as well. If you say regional centers, very soon you'll see regional centers, and that has been ratified or has been supported by the federation.
Okay, one of the biggest highlights of Ugandan football was the under-17 Cubs qualifying for the World Cup that is going to take place in Qatar. How impactful is this in relation to what you've just explained for Ugandan football, and what does the future look like?
It is a big thing in history. I think the lot that qualified for the other edition that was affected by COVID is unlucky. But this is a very good thing for the country. It is history in the making. It shows that whatever the federation is doing is on the right track. This should tell you that all effort that has been put in development has paid off, and everyone who wants success in football should follow that model.
Okay, the Uganda Premier League. You played in Tanzania. You played for Azam. Maybe at that time the rivalry between Simba and Yanga was still at its height, and Azam has now grown into that mix. Today you talk about Simba Yanga, Azam is in the picture.
Right.
What what do you think the Ugandan Premier League needs to do to pick a leaf from what Tanzania is doing? Because Tanzania they have teams. Simba is in the semi-finals of the Confederation Cup. You know, Yanga has been playing the Champions League year in, year out. What are those things you feel we could pick a leaf from in Tanzania to do better here?
Right now, I think it is value addition. If you compare the value of the Tanzanian Premier League with ours, you see the figures. It is a big, big gap because of value. And that value can only be generated, can only be enhanced with the quality you produce here in the country. Give me a player in our league right now who is doing so well, we can say Alan Okello, and compare them with the topmost player in the
Tanzania.
the Tanzania Premier League, which is Aziz Ki, right?
Yes, Stefan Azizki.
If you put those players on the same stage, they're on a weighing scale.
There's a big difference.
So now, who is pulling resources between Aziz Ki and our Okello? Because to enhance you need to pull resources. Who is pulling more resources, Aziz Ki and Alan Okello? Resources from sponsors. Who is appealing? And now, the player who has that ability right now is Aziz Ki. You understand? So you're pulling in more money. You're pulling in more resources into the league. And that means you will grow. Our clubs will have more in the kitty. Yeah? You will have more in the basket compared to someone who pulls. Yes, he's pulling, but you know,
It's not enough.
not enough. Whoever is pulling more resources has more now to utilize in that basket and say, okay, now, how am I signing players? How am I having my secretariat organized? What structures am I putting? Who has the potential now? Whoever has a bigger basket or a smaller basket, you know? So, value addition. Start with developing players who appeal. Yeye mundu je tulina. Kubanga ekyo tekiyinza tulema. One of our biggest problems is pulling people who will give us money. Like the fans. Nenda kulaba ni Tanzania. Simba Yanga playing. Yanga Azam playing. Emilyango bagigulawo very early and people start flocking in. So kakati tuzimba abasambi. Tuzimbe omupiira kubanga abasambi bennyini betuzimba abalungi bebagenda okyusa omupiira the brand of football you play nga defendinga bulungi nga woyagala nga midfielder akola ebintu byoyagala okulaba striker nga amagola agaba nga bwe nalinga kuba kubanga nze nzijukira twajjuzanga nakivubo CAF games za KCC, section ya KCC yali ejjulanga. And that meant what? That meant money for the club. In that club, lwebetuka ku level nga yagagenda ku Champions League ng'enoonya ssente, erina weetandikira. Nakusaawa zino.
Kizibu muko
kuba club erina okutandika okulobinga, you know.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us today on Pitchside. As you sign out, 2 questions. Number 1, the Brian Umony Foundation. We know for sure that it's around, maybe dust has gathered on the file. Please update us on that and your final words to your fans and, you know, Ugandans out there.
The foundation is very alive. Taken some time. I think we ran into a few barriers, which we should do, things that we should fulfill as a foundation that make us an NGO, that make us legal, that make us eligible to speak to important people. So we are very alive. Of course, the big man himself, our CEO, has a table where he plans these things. And of course, he's in the planning processes to finalize all those concerns. I urge you, as your son, as your player, as a person you have followed, to continue supporting Ugandan football. We are making very big strides, especially at the federation. Continue supporting our national teams. Continue supporting our clubs. Mukomewo mu bisaawe bannaye muwagire tiimu zammwe. Continue building the brand of football in the country. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Brian Umony. Brian Umony has joined us today on Pitchside for a very, very extensive chat about his life now and, of course, his career that he had. Like we always say, please keep it pitchside. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.